Welcome to the market recap presented by Tackle Trading. Get in the game.
Good afternoon, Tackle Traders, and hello, YouTube. This is Frank coming to you with the market recap for Tuesday, September 18th. A nice bounce back day for the bulls in the market. So we're excited to see how things went today. But before we do that, tomorrow morning we do have S&P 500 company Copart (CPRT) reporting earnings. So that will be something to keep an eye on. All of the companies that reported yesterday after the close and this morning before the open, they all gapped down on earnings and had kind of a rough day for the most part on the earnings front. But really light day, of course, here tomorrow with just one S&P 500 company reporting. So taking a look at our overall market, all of our indexes really rebounded to yesterday, selling very nicely. Technical analysis working as it's supposed to, right? I was on the Russell because that was on my mind, but let's look at the S&P first. S&P took another run towards that previous swing high, that previous resistance level. Wasn't able to break through. Kind of, we got very, very close. Sold off a little bit. Nothing dramatic. Nothing enough to really make a bearish candle. But when we did approach that high, it did kind of retreat just a little bit. Pattern remains intact. Obviously, a break of that would be a nice bullish signal. So let's see if we can do that. But we do continue to hold our breakout point, hold support. Everything is good from a technical point of view over there. Our 50, where we closed yesterday on our NASDAQ, and pretty heavy day of selling, the 50-day moving average did act as support. Buyers came in and pretty early and often today. Tech had a pretty solid day. Of course, the NASDAQ index did as well. We kind of continue to be in that similar situation where we pulled back. We've got that trend line. Everything is good on the trend, but there is definitely maybe a lack of conviction, maybe is what it feels like to me in the world of tech right now. Now, I'm not betting against it. It hasn't done anything wrong. And what I always will say is trust the chart, because I am always biased. I have an opinion, but the chart is the chart. Price is price, right? That's why I love technical analysis. Things are still looking okay there. We do want to keep an eye on this previous swing low, that support level, which kind of lines up just a little bit below our 50, and our trend line is important. So that's kind of the battle line. We shouldn't go below there. But hey, today doesn't look like we have to worry about it. Certainly the bulls were in very much control here today over in the NASDAQ. On the Dow Jones, very nice. Industrials continue to be very, very strong. Was able to break out of that little top that it had been fighting with these last several trading days. Broke through pretty strong, closed, nice, for the most part, nice green candle. We did retreat off the highs, but we're able to hold that breakout. Not a lot of overhead, really not any overhead till we get to those all-time highs. On the Dow Jones, a lot of those stocks are making pretty interesting looking patterns, in my opinion. We're seeing a lot of strength over in that index right now. No two ways about that. And of course, Russell, who was hanging by a thread yesterday, kind of hanging right on that breakout point, finally had a little bit of buyer activity step back in. Didn't go crazy, but once again, support holds. That's why it's so important to trust your support and resistance, identify your support and resistance, because at least as of today, yesterday looked like much ado about nothing, right? Of course, still looking at the Russell, it's still showing relative weakness compared to our other indexes. Keep an eye on that breakout point, lining up with that 50-day moving average that's been propping us up. Let's go ahead and hope it continues to do so, at least if you are a bull. If that breaks, that will certainly be a bearish signal. What exactly we do with that signal will be up to us individually, but I certainly don't think you could say anything other than it being a bearish signal if it happens. But hey, again, until it happens, it's been holding for a long time, right? Until it happens, it's just preparation, right? It's what if. So that's where we find ourselves in the overall market. Pretty strong day overall. In our material sector, I mean, it really is kind of this very similar situation as it's been for a bit. Quite a bit of intraday volatility, big candles back and forth, working up towards the higher end of the trading range. I think, if we push through, you could start to be thinking about this as a potential breakout opportunity. I don't think I'm going to be thinking clearly in those terms. I'll call it that. But if we do break that resistance that we are fighting with, I do think you could call it a little bit of a breakout. If you, I think technically you would call it. I don't know if I trust it or not. I've not really liked or had a great handle on the material sector lately. And so I probably would miss the first pass if that's what it took. But again, that's just me. I am kind of a wimp. I'll be first to admit that. Taking a look at energy, continued to push up, ran up into resistance today, and sold off of that previous swing. A pretty bearish close on the candlestick, very much a gravestone doji type of candle off of resistance. We're never surprised, right? Nice run to resistance. Of course, it's going to be a battle. Of course, some people are going to take some profits at resistance. The question is, or is anybody, never going to be me, but are buyers willing to buy back in and push through? We'll have to wait and see. But we are certainly at resistance within XLE. We have been pretty sideways as of late. Wouldn't be surprised to see if it sell off a little bit from there. But at the same time, I mean, it's been pretty strong. You have to call a spade a spade. It's been very strong, movement-wise this last week and a half. And so we'll just monitor it. At least that's my take. Monitor resistance. Some downward movement would be a little bit of a confirmation that the bears are moving back in. A break would obviously be a bullish signal if we wanted to take it. Finance just kind of bounced back, but just kind of was there today at the same time. But importantly, we continue to hold that swing. It does look like some money is starting to work back into the financials. We've been relatively weak as of late. We continue to monitor that support, which is lining up with all those averages, but we're starting to see it kind of push back up, at least right now. Just doesn't seem like there's a lot of excitement. And again, I get it. I've looked at many of the S&P 500 financial charts, and most of them just don't look very good. It's not necessarily they look terribly bearish, but none of them look exciting. None of them look like, wow, that's a strong buying signal or anything like that. For some reason, it's just not looking great right now. Industrials, on the other hand, continues to be wonderful and fantastic. Another strong day over in the industrial sector as the Dow Jones and so those industrial stocks who kind of lag behind year to date. Some of the other companies, the tech and healthcare, for example, really are starting to make some ground. So we're doing very strong over there. Didn't take much, right? Buyers are looking for any excuse when things are hot. That's what I've noticed. They are looking for excuses to buy. And they certainly found it today. Another great day over in the industrial sector. Remained very strong over there. Of course, tech and NASDAQ, as always, they go hand in hand, looking very similar. We still hold the trend. We still have made higher lows. Have not broken anything, have not done anything wrong, right? Saw a little bit of bounce back today. Let's see how it progresses. But really, I mean, right now, while it's not orderly or maybe pretty, how I would describe this chart, it is doing what it's supposed to do, right? It's holding support. It is not doing anything wrong. And until it's done anything wrong, we have to be happy with it, don't we? At least that's my philosophy. Over at Staples, they sold off a little bit off of that resistance. It looks like, of course, they're just going to have that back and forth fight as they try to decide, do we have what it takes to break through resistance? We say many times here, breaking resistance is hard. It's not easy just because we want it to be. It continues to kind of maintain right below that resistance level. Hasn't quite decided if it wants to pull back or consolidate or break through. So we'll have to continue to monitor that price point. But really just another kind of day of consolidating, hanging around a little bit below that resistance zone. Not terribly shocking because resistance is tough to break. Moving on into utilities, very similar to our staples where it's got that overhead resistance, showing a lot of overall strength, but it's just kind of trying to figure out, do we have what it takes to push through this resistance? And at least right now, nobody's willing to be the first one in. It's holding its own. That is a positive sign that these sectors are holding their own at resistance, but clearly have not broken through just yet in utilities either. We did have a strong bounce back. Again, we talked about this a lot, but when these things are really hot, buyers are looking for excuses, and they found it today. Healthcare got going, and as healthcare has been prone to do as of late, really had a very strong day in the market. Of course, we know that we've taken out that all-time high. So every time we're approaching the previous swing high, now we're looking at the all-time high in resistance. So We'll monitor that. Obviously, it's not a huge level of resistance, but it is resistance, even if it's a short-term intraday level. But very good stuff, continues to be strong, continues to perform. Love me some healthcare. No two ways about that. Big bounce back day for discretionary. They really, kind of yesterday, along with tech, really were one of the, the worst performing sectors. A lot of selling, but buyers hopped right back into it. Like it. I'm glad that they did. I'm kind of glad they did it in one day. We're that much closer to that resistance as a potential breakout opportunity. We obviously have to wait and see. We clearly are not there yet, but we do remain overall very, very strong. Looks like we're almost a little bit of a consolidation after this most recent break. And you'll have to forgive me. I'm terrible at drawing straight lines on this software, but hope you kind of get that what I was trying to. There we go. That's a lot straighter. Looks like we're kind of consolidating, taking 5, haven't done anything wrong. About to challenge resistance again. Very strong day for sure over in the discretionary sector. And then our friends in real estate continue to be really boring. And I say that very nicely. I'm happy that you've been very boring at real estate. We continue to trade within the same range we've been in for several weeks. The longer that happens, the happier I am, because I can trade neutral strategies in the short term, and eventually it's going to break. And the longer this goes back and forth, eventually when it does break, that should be a pretty clear signal of what way it wants to go. So real estate, continue to be boring, continue to trade within this range. One of these days, you're going to break one way or the other. Just doesn't have to be anytime soon, at least according to me. So you may disagree with me, and that is perfectly fine. So that's where we find ourselves in the sectors. Really, most sectors did pretty well today. It was really a strong day in the market. It was a blah type of day over in the dollar, really just continuing to dip around. We did kind of stick our nose a little bit below that little swing low that we've kind of been sitting on the last few days. On the intraday, rallied up to close back above it. We're just stuck in sideways. And until we're not, we just have to accept it, right? It's boring. It's not exciting to talk about. It's not exciting to listen to people talk about it, but it is what it is, right? It's never what we want it to be. It's always what it is. We continue to go back and forth in our metals as well. Here's the gold continuing to trade within that range. Nothing really to see here any different than it was yesterday or a week ago. We still are using the same levels of support and resistance. I like when we see this, as I've said before, I like when we build these floors. I like when it takes some time because we can see some pretty good movement when it finally breaks, whichever way it decides it wants to break. But that is not today. We are smack dab in the middle of that trading range as we look at gold, and very similar situation as we look at silver. Continues to build that floor using the same intraday support, same intraday resistance. We'll just continue to monitor it, wait for it to decide to break out one way or another. Now, I'm biased, especially on silver. I don't know that I would be interested in a bullish breakout. If it were to break to the upside, I could understand why someone would buy it. I would call that a little short-term buy signal, but I don't think I would be interested in it. I'm a lot more interested in the way the gold chart looks at that 1220. That would be a stronger buy signal in my opinion. But I am interested maybe a little more so on the sell signal on silver. So that's kind of where I find myself. If we break to the upside of the metals, I kind of like gold. If we break to the downside, I kind of like silver. And hey, I can change my mind. Maybe I'll change my mind by tomorrow. But that's a great thing about being in these sideways ranges. We have time to think it through. What would I like to do? How would I like to trade them? If I would like to trade them, all of that fun stuff. So no rush. It can go sideways as long as it wants, because sooner or later, hey, this is gold and silver. It's not going to stay this tight forever, right? And that sooner or later is going to break. Big day in natural gas has rewarded the buyers who have had that faith in that support level. There's no two ways about that. Natural gas can be crazy. It can move. There's no doubt about that. Big, strong movement today. Of course, we have to worry that we're working back into the same general approximately $3 range of resistance on natural gas. But you can't really say anything other than pretty impressive. Natural gas, very strong day. Support doing its job, rewarding the traders out there who are willing to bet on support, punishing those who are betting against it. Like, I'm all right if I didn't trade natural gas. Yeah, I wish I would have if I didn't. But I would feel really bad if I were still in a bearish trade after it got to that support level. That would have been a mistake, right? Hindsight, I should have bought, I don't think it's hindsight to think we should have closed our bearish trades as we approach that support level. But very strong day over there, working up to resistance. Still overall very, very sideways, as you can kind of see when we zoom out a little bit. We're in a pretty sideways movement in natural gas right now. Keep an eye on that area. Again, it's really more of an area than a specific number. Generally, when we're talking about support and resistance, and specifically in my experience on natural gas too, it's an area. So we're getting close. Let's monitor that. Obviously, I'd be thinking about taking profits this close to resistance after a day like this. And I'm just one person, but I can't imagine I'm the only person who would be thinking about that. Or maybe I am, I don't know. So I can't imagine so. And lastly, looking at our crude oil, kind of another bounce back day, working back in towards that 70 range that's caused us so much trouble. But the nice thing about being this close to 70 is if you are interested in a potential breakout, we're close enough that it could happen tomorrow, right? Maybe it will, maybe it won't. We are, of course, still in the same trading range. As we've looked at these charts together today, and I've looked at them on my own, I'll continue to maintain there's other areas that just seem crisper, cleaner, are behaving more rationally than crude oil, in my opinion. So I'm continuing to just have this on a watch list as I focus on other areas that at least I feel like I have a better handle on than crude oil. But again, we're at resistance. So whether it's potentially selling at resistance, potentially buying on a breakout, those are things that we can think about doing, right? I'm probably going to pass altogether, but that doesn't mean I can't think about them. Doesn't mean you'd be wrong to be thinking about them. And of course, one of them will be the right answer. Either buy the break or sell at resistance. One of those will end up being the right answer, right? We just don't know today. But really not a whole lot has changed there. We continue to use that same level of resistance, but we're close, so we can see how it fares tomorrow. Does resistance knock it down again? Does it try another failed breakout again? Or hey, can it finally break on through to the other side? The interesting thing about crude is, if we can break, there's really no, logically speaking, from a technical point of view at least, reason that we can't get up into that 74 range. There's upside here. It's just not been very well behaved. And for me, at least, I like things that I consider well behaved. If you want to do a bunch of fake outs, that's just going to let me think that, yeah, I don't know about you. Maybe later. But again, I'm kind of a wimp when it comes to that stuff. And that's okay. We are what we are, right? As traders, it's important to understand what we like, how we like it, how we like to trade, what we're good at, what we're not so good at. There's no shame in not being perfect. We just want to, know who we are, right? That's an important step for all traders, in my opinion. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is where we find ourselves today after a pretty exciting day in the market, after, quite a bit of selling yesterday, quite a bit of buying today. Overall, our patterns really remain intact. We haven't seen anything break support or break trend or anything like that. So things are still looking pretty good from an overall technical point of view as we move into the second part of the week. So with that, as always, guys, it is my pleasure, and I do appreciate everybody's time. If you haven't already, make sure you do subscribe to us over here on YouTube and hit that notification bell so you can be alerted to any new videos that we do. And be sure to follow us over on Twitter at Tackle Trading. If you enjoyed the market recap, it is always very helpful and appreciated if you do give it a thumbs up to let us know we are on the right track. We would like to see more. With that, ladies and gentlemen, get out of here. Happy trading, and I will see you in the next one.